All right. Good morning, people. I feel like I can never be quite as exciting as that intro music because it's like all that and more. Good morning, programs. I am Raymond Camden, a senior developer evangelist for Adobe. And this is the second time that I have run this episode of Paper Clips all by myself. Last time I didn't screw up too bad, which means like today I'm probably going to do every single thing wrong. Uh, yeah, possibly. We'll see. I mean, that'll be fun for you, right? All right. So before we kind of get into the main gist of what I'll be talking about today, I have a couple of links that I want to share with you. All right. So the first thing that I want to share is an interesting article that I wrote a couple days ago, actually, talking about how to. Actually, I think that was last year, actually. But essentially, talking about using Microsoft Power Automate, Adobe PDF Extract, and doing some natural language parsing. And actually, I think I was supposed to share this link at the end. So, hey, that's great. I am like 5 minutes in and I have already screwed up, but that's okay because the next link is going to be the one that I intended to show. There we go. All right. So the next link that I want to share is also from our Medium blog and also talking about Power Automate. Both myself and Ben and my coworkers, etc. We've been doing a lot with Power Automate lately, and that's what today's session is going to be about. But in this particular blog, I talk about how to do PDF merging with Power Automate. So a great use case for that would be we have these documents, and every document that we put on the web has to have some legal boilerplate put in front. So what's cool and what this blog post talks about is how we can automate that particular process. We could take an ad hoc PDF, put the legal boilerplate PDF in front of it, and then generate a final document from that. Last link that I want to share, when you or if you ever signed up to get credentials for the Adobe document services, you had the option to say that you wanted us to email you. If you said no, or if you unsubscribed at some point in the past, you are missing out on our monthly developer newsletter. This is a great way to kind of keep up to date with where we're going to particular conferences, what cool articles we've written, or what new APIs or offerings we've offered. But we just shipped like 2 days ago, I think, a way for you to sign up for that newsletter. You don't have to get credentials again. You literally just sign up and you will start getting them. We just sent our last newsletter, I think, on Monday. So if you do sign up, you probably won't get one for a couple of weeks. But again, if you want to kind of find out what's going on and seeing what our team is working on, this is a great way to do that. All right, so I feel pretty good. I only messed up that first link. I'll have to figure out what I did wrong there, but that's okay. So what I want to talk about today is how I use Power Automate to solve a particular problem. And let's kind of back up a bit and kind of imagine a hypothetical situation. So I think in general, we all agree that electronic documents are better, right? So my computer can hold 1 trillion PDFs, Word docs, etc. And it's much easier to back them up, manage them, and so forth. Because electronic documents are so easy and so convenient, we have trillions and trillions of them. That causes another problem. So imagine you work for a large company and you have a lot of people applying. So every day people are sending in their resumes. You could have thousands of documents showing up every day. Yes, it's really convenient to have that and electronic format. You don't have to worry about pouring your coffee on it or your cat tearing it up. But how do you work with that flood of electronic information? Well, one of the ways that we can work with that is to analyze those documents and then do something on it. So, for example, we have the PDF extract API. This will look at a PDF document and tell you everything inside it. So everything from the fonts being used, the colors, the position of graphics, and tabular data and stuff like that. Everything. It also includes the text information as well. Now, where PDF extract API gets really kind of fascinating, I think, is when you take it and start combining it with other services. So, for example, Microsoft has a natural language processing system that can look at text and tell you what it's talking about. So, what we can build is a way to say, hey, when I have a document show up in some form, it could be email, it could be a SharePoint folder, whatever. I want to look at the text and intelligently figure out what it's talking about. If we go back to our resume example, our business currently could be really excited about hiring new vets who specialize in working with cats. So we can actually look at the resumes and look for topics that cover working with cats, feline management, whatever. And based on that, if we have those 1,000 or so resumes, we could say, 100 of them are probably exactly what we're looking for right now. Let's highlight those in some way, or let's just make sure that the human who has to go through those documents prioritizes working with those first. So what I have done, what I built today, and what I'm hoping to show you is an automated setup such that when a document is dropped in a SharePoint folder, we're going to use Adobe PDF Extract API to analyze the document and get that text out. We're then going to pass this to a Microsoft service to analyze the text and figure out the topics that it's talking about. And this is an intelligent thing where it's not just, he said the word cat, but he's really actually talking about cats. I apologize. I'm looking over at the LinkedIn stream that for some reason has gone back in time. And I'm just going to hope that that is not happening on the YouTube stream and not happening for everybody. Cool. I apologize. I freaked out. I shouldn't be doing 5 things at once. So as I was saying, we're going to build this system up. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to email the topics of that PDF document to me, just to keep it nice and simple. Now, I have already built this, and I have a blog post I'll show at the end. Actually, I think that was the first link I showed. No, it should have been at the end. That happens. So if anything here doesn't make sense, just know that there's a whole blog post that walks you through every process. I also have the Power Automate flow already done. So if for some reason I screw up while creating it, I'm just going to punt and switch to the version that's already done. So you don't see me kind of scrambling and trying to get things working. All right, so let's switch to my desktop. Oops, wrong thing. There we go. All right, so let me just adjust that a little bit. All right, so this is the Microsoft Flow site. I am going to go ahead and create a new flow that will be automated. And as I mentioned, I'm going to base it on working with SharePoint. You don't have to work with SharePoint. It could be based on other things as well. But just to keep it simple, we're going to say when a file is created in the folder via SharePoint, and we'll call this flow name Ray Lai June 29th. We will create it. All right, first step is done. So I need to go in here and select my site, and we will pick Document Services Evangelism, and we will pick a folder, and it will be under Documents, And then I know I have my own little area, Ray test. Let's go in here and for PDF a test. Not the most imaginative name, but it works. So, woo, got that done. All right. So, just to be clear, just going to recap. At this point, I'm saying that this Microsoft Flow is going to fire whenever I drop a new PDF into that particular folder. So, I'm going to go ahead and click Next Step. What we want to do is extract the contents of that PDF. If we go into Add New Step and go into Adobe PDF Services, we will see that we have an Extract step. And I'm going to select Extract PDF Structure in a JSON object. And what I'm going to do is two things. First, I'm going to say for the content, you're going to base it on the trigger, in this case, the contents of the file that was dropped into the SharePoint folder. File name could be anything but required, so I'll say file.pdf. And I will expand the advanced options. I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to turn off styling information. Our extract API has a couple of different levels in terms of, how intense it's going to parse stuff. We don't need the styling data, so I'm going to turn that off, and that will make things a bit simpler. All right, so far so good. So at the end of this point, I will have a JSON object that contains all the information from the Extract API. If you want to see what that looks like, this is a example of one of the tests that I've run, and it's a lot of information. It's really just a wall of text here, but you'll see everything, including, for example, this is a table cell. I could tell by the path. I have exactly where it is on the document, weight, height, everything. It's just it's a lot of data. And PDF Extract is great for that because it says, here's everything, and you could take this and you could go with it. All right, so with that JSON, I then want to parse this data so I could start working with it. So I'm going to add a step. I'm going to look for the parse JSON data operation. The content is going to be the results of the previous step. I love how Power Automate just kind of assumes, hey, you probably want the last step and you probably want the output. So I'm going to grab that. Now, the next thing it needs is a JSON schema. This is going to be used to help it understand the JSON data that was returned. If you've never worked with JSON schemas before, it's a great way to add validation to your code. A lot of editors like Visual Studio Code will support JSON schemas and give you like code hinting while you work with results. It is a great thing in general. And we have our JSON schema up on a URL. You don't need to know that URL right now, but I have it open in a different browser, and I'm just going to paste that schema object in there, and that should be good. Oops, I'm sorry. Let's do next step. All right, so again, just kind of backing up and talking about what I've done so far. I have created my flow such that it's going to fire when I drop a document into a particular folder. For right now, I am assuming it's always going to be a PDF. I can make my flow a bit more secure by doing a check beforehand. I'm going to use the Adobe service to extract the information from that PDF. In my third step, I have parsed that JSON. And basically, I have all of that data ready to use within my flow. So what I want is the textual information because I want to take that and I want to pass that to the natural language processing system that we're going to use in a little bit. So because I'm going to have a bunch of text strings that's going to kind of like join together into one massive text box, I'm going to initialize a variable for that purpose. Do initialize a variable. initialized variable, and it is going to be called text. Not terribly imaginative on my part. And it's going to be a string, and we're going to default to just an empty string. All right, so that is step one. All right. So for the next step, we need to loop over all of the elements. All right. We need to loop over every single element, and we need to get the text value. And let me go back into my sample JSON, and you can see right on string here, we have one element, and that shows a text value. It's a very small element, TSSM, but basically we're going to be looping over all of these results and gathering up just that particular text value. All right. So to do that, and this was a bit complex for me, it was a bit hard for me to kind of grok how this worked, but there is a select data operation that's going to allow me to select from all those elements and then pick the text value. So in from, I'm going to go in here and I am going to search for list of semantic elements found in the PDF. And I have to let me just type in list of semantic elements. And this should be, there we go, filtering. And let me move this over a little bit so we could see. Like I said, this is partly where it gets a little bit complex, but I want just the PDF. And if for some reason this fails to work for me, I am going to punt and go to the finished version. I know it's here somewhere. And there we go. All right, I was just about ready to give up. But essentially, looking at all the elements returned from the PDF, this is going to essentially say where to start from. Next, in the map section, I am going to ask for the PDF text. And let me do this real quick. All right. So list, let me type in here again, list of semantic elements, and I want PDF text. All right. So that, and I accidentally typed a little bit in there. All right. So I apologize. I will say, like, this part of building the flow in Power Automate, this was the hardest part for me. I really like Power Automate, but I'm still kind of learning the way that Power Automate operates, the way that it thinks. And in this particular aspect, this is essentially saying, look at the array of elements returned from PDF extract, and then get just the text value. Whew. All right. So at this point, we actually have a new array, and it's literally just an array of the text values. But what we really want is just one big string variable. Again, Power Automate has a nice way of doing that with a join data operation. And all I got to do is say select the output from before, and that should do it. All right, and for join with, if I remember correct, I think I just did a blank string like that. All right, so at this point, I could test, but I'm not going to bother testing, because if I do anything wrong, I'm just going to switch to the version that's working. But I will say, when I was building this, I tested at pretty much every single step. Power Automate makes it very easy to do that. You save it, you test it, you run, you look at the results, and then you fix what you screwed up, and then you keep working. All right. So in theory, at this point, I have a body of text. So what I want to do is look at then analyzing the text. All right. So in order to do that, the first thing that I'm going to do is actually take the text and work on a sub portion of that, or a substring. when I was testing with the Microsoft Natural Language Processor, the first thing that I ran into is that it has a limit in terms of how much text you can send it. That limit is 5,120 characters. So in order for things to work correctly, I need to kind of slice the string that I just made in this step down to that particular part. So I'm adding another step and doing a substring. It is a text function, and I'm going to select the text from the join operation. Its output, I'm going to say a starting position of 0 and a last position of 5120. All right, now at this point, I'm actually ready to start working with the Microsoft Natural Language Processing. I will say this requires a trial. Microsoft makes it really easy to sign up for their trial. In fact, I first built this demo a couple of weeks ago, and my trial expired. And when I was kind of running it again, I was like, oh no, what do I do? Do I need a new email account or whatever? And literally, it was like, click this button to extend your trial. And I clicked the button, and it was done. So that was really, really nice. So I'm going to click New Step again. I'm going to select AI Builder, and I'm going to look for Extract Key Phrases from Text. And there it is right there. I'm going to say that my language is English. I do speak other languages, but very poorly, so you do not want to hear me speak them. And for the text, I want the result of that substring operation. And that should work. And so in theory, at this point, we can test it. We can see the results. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to hit save and see what happens. It's thinking, oh, it's already done. Okay. And then in theory, if we test it manually, and it's going to do what it needs to do. It's thinking. All right. Actually, I said to see it work now, add a file in the SharePoint folder. All right. So I have my SharePoint folder open in another window. The source PDF that I'm going to use is a 20-page document from NASA, I believe, talking about all kinds of space stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that document into my SharePoint folder. I'll go back to Microsoft Power Automate. It's processing. It recognized that I added that new PDF. And if I did everything correctly, we will see results. If I did one thing wrong, I'm just going to switch to the live version so you can see that instead. And look at that. Of course it worked. I mean, why would I think otherwise? No, I'm really, really surprised. Everything worked out okay. And if we look at the results from from the extract key phrases, we could see an array of things that it found that it thought were major important things. So again, not surprised at all. I knew it was going to work. But let's go back and edit because we're not quite done yet. What I said that I wanted to do when I was finished is that I wanted to email those results. So in order to do that, I do need to kind of craft my email. The result from before was an array of key phrases. So what we're going to do is create a string that is going to be the email that I'm going to send out. So I'm going to add a new step, and we're going to initialize another variable. And string variable, initialize variable. We're going to call this mail body, and it's going to be a string. And we're just going to have a blank value to start with. All right. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take that array result from the AI Builder, the natural language processor, and we are going to loop over each of those, and we're going to add the value to our string. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click New Step. I'm going to do Apply to Each and Control Apply to Each. And apply to each. I know what's in here. Apply to each. There we go. All right, so I have to type it. And we're going to say that the thing that we're going to be looping over is the result from that section up there, basically that array of data. And then for each of those items, we are going to add to our string variable. So I'm going to do click add an action, append to string variable. There it is. The variable that we're adding is male body. And for the value, we're going to do something a bit complex. What we're going to do is basically say, I want to take the phrase value from that array of results, but I don't want you to just add it to the string. I want you to add it along with a BR HTML element, essentially a line break. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to do an expression. I'm going to paste it in, and it's right there on the edge of the screen. Hopefully, y'all are seeing that okay. But essentially, you know, I want you to take the phrase from the natural language processing. I want you to add a BR to it, and then all of this is going to be appended into the male body result. So the net result of this, basically loop over the results from the natural language processor and keep adding to my male body so that I have something to send to somebody. So for the last step, we're going to send an email notification. Send an email notification. There we go. We're going to send it to me, Ray Camden. There I am. I do work at Adobe. The subject is going to be PDF extracted and analyzed. And then for the body of this message, we're going to mix up a few things. We're going to type a little bit, and we're going to use a couple dynamic variables. The PDF, and we're going to go back to the name of the file, which should be here at the very, very bottom. It will be the XMSS file ID. That's going to be the file name. Was added to our folder. We found these key phrases, and you can make this a little bit nicer as well. And then I'm just going to add in male body. Whew. All right, save it one more time. Let Power Automate do its thing. And now it's recommending that I test it. I agree with you, Power Automate. I am going to test it. I am back in my SharePoint folder. You can't see that. And I just removed the PDF I uploaded earlier, but it is ready for testing. And I'm going to add the PDF again. And I've dragged it into SharePoint. In theory, this is going to start firing. And hopefully, this will work just fine. If not, I have an earlier email. I had such great luck earlier, so surely it's going to work again. All right, it's looking at my PDF. It is extracting the information from that. It's thinking about it. Taking a little bit longer than normal. I'm going to blame internet gremlins. Oh, bam, 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 green, green, green. All right, now it's talking to Microsoft Natural Language Processor. I haven't screwed anything up yet. It got the results. It's creating a variable. It really should not take that long to work. That concerns me a little bit. Oh, it messed up. And you know what? That is okay. It's okay that it messed up because, like I said, I have an earlier working example, and I'm about to show you the blog post. And the blog post links to everything I saw here. But let me just pop open this window here so I can show you the result. And let me kind of make this fit a bit better. All right. No, don't full size. Don't try to help me, Windows. All right. This is an example of how it should look. The PDF, blah, 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 was added to so-and-so. We extracted. By the way, in case if you notice that the text is a little bit different, this is from my working version, which is still firing. But you can see all the key phrases. And this is, kind of a wall of text. You could absolutely apply a sanity check to this to show a bit less, maybe the top 10 phrases, etc. I will say the Microsoft services that I use can also do things like look for entities, which is cool in case if you're looking for someone talking about a company or a nonprofit organization of some sort. You could do a lot more than what I'm doing here, but I am not going to press my luck. We got most of the way through. There was one little bug at the end, but that's okay because you'll have access to a live version, and we are good to go. All right, so I am going to switch back to my closing links, and it's very interesting. I did mess that up. Well, I'm still learning OBS, and I have something to share for next time. So this is the thing. This is the main thing that I wanted to share with you. This is a blog post where I explain everything that I just walked through. So it goes a little bit slower, has a lot of screenshots and so forth, but it gives you a step-by-step process of what I did. And that is basically it. Yeah, listen, if y'all have any questions at all, let me switch to my lovely face. If you have any questions at all, my contact information is on there. On Twitter, my DMs are open, and I love to get questions. It makes me so excited when I get to solve somebody's problem. So definitely feel free to reach out to me and ask me to explain more, show more, or anything at all about what I am doing. And if you have stayed this whole time and listened to my grating voice go on and on and on, thank you. I definitely appreciate it. I hope you have a good rest of the week. Stay safe and all that. And goodbye.